How's it going? Welcome to this video. I have officially made $10,000 in a month from my podcast. This has been a long journey and I'm so excited to finally make it. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I do it. Now, it's very simple and I don't know if I'll do videos past this. This has kind of been a goal of mine, and now that I've achieved it, I'm really just going to continue to focus that because I want to grow it more than that. 10,000 was the first goal, but 10,000 can lead to 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. Like there's so much to come from here, and so let's just show you the proof. We're going to dive into an Excel sheet first because it breaks down where it comes from, and then we'll see where that goes as far as proof goes. So if I pull up my spreadsheet here, this has been something, and I'll go to the totals page. It's something I've been tracking for about 2 years. So I have 2022 as well. This is 2023, and you can see my averages. So this is what right here. This is what I've made per month for my podcast. Now it's broken up from a few different things. You have I'm on Anchor, so you have your ads that you make from Anchor. I have additional sponsors. I have affiliate income, one-on-one coaching, and then I did start a second podcast. Stopped that already. That didn't do anything. I did grow it, and maybe I'll make a second video on that and how to grow it, but ultimately I wanted to keep my focus on my main one. But you can see here in June on line H, we finally hit 10,000. Obviously there's a big spike and there's a few reasons for that, which we can dive into. But this is, what it breaks down to. So the Anchor ads, right, that is, if I pull up my podcast here, if you go over to your money, and I use Anchor, which is now Spotify for podcasters. So if you're not familiar with that transition, it is Anchor. Anchor.fm was the old platform. Now it's called Spotify for podcasters. It's a free platform. It's owned by Spotify. I recommend using it because, one, it's free. It doesn't quite have all the tools that some of the other systems have, but for free and the ability to get paid, I think it's worth it. So this is my setup right here. You have your Stripe account. So this is for your host read ads, and then you have your Spotify payouts. And that's for your automated ads. Automated ads, I believe, is still in beta, so I can't say when you get that. But the host read ads are pretty available. Like once you get to, I believe, actually we can see the criteria right here. When you reach 100 Spotify listeners within the last 60 days, you get it. And now what they do is they renew it on a monthly basis. So you can see I have June here, right? So this was June's numbers. And then there's a new one for July, which this video is coming out, I think, probably June 30th. So when you probably watch this, July already happened. This one will deactivate, this one will reactivate, and it seems like every month, if you qualify, they will send you a new one. You get paid $14 per thousand when it airs on, I believe, Spotify. We can see here. The one on Spotify, I believe you get more. Yep. And then on other platforms like iTunes, you get this one. But this ad rarely runs on Spotify for me because I do have the automated ads. So it mainly runs on other platforms. So that's this part, okay? So let's swing back over here. That is this top line right here. That's all from Spotify. There was a dip because I switched to Megaphone. If you look a couple videos back, and Megaphone was a complete disaster. Would not recommend it, but that's why I went down. But then we kind of jumped back up. So another thing about June, which we'll pull up June here on the tab just so we can look at it all together. There was three. I pay myself out every Friday. So there was actually five. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 payouts. So that certainly helped, right? Like because all these landed on Fridays, the last day of the month was Friday. I was able to pay myself, pretty much out one extra time. So that helped. Additional sponsors. I only want one sponsor right now. So, there's not a lot of money there. I don't like running that many sponsors because I already have these ads. And I just feel like if I do more, like it just takes away. Even just doing the one feels like a lot. And so that's why I don't do as many. I might do more because I'm running more episodes now. But for now, I just run one, and it airs twice a month. And I run episodes 7 days a week. So for it to air twice a month, it's not that big a deal. And then coaching, my podcast is the Positive Mindset Podcast. That's what I do. Like I'm a mindset coach. I help people basically build who it is they want to become in their mind and then create that as a reality. And so that's kind of what the podcast is based on. That's what my coaching is based on. So the money here from this, I didn't want to just include all coaching clients because I didn't think that would be fair if it's people that I work with outside the podcast, meaning they didn't come through the podcast of the funnel. So I started, actually, let's go back over here. I started turning my funnel back on. You can see in April, and then in May, and then June shot back up. July will be even better because I turned the funnel back on. I just had not taken any new clients for a little while. Basically, from the end of last year all the way through April, I was pretty full with what I was doing, and those were clients that were not from the podcast because I get them from other places too, and so I didn't think it'd be fair to count them in this. But let's swing back over here. So that's it. So that got me just over the hump. I made $10,017.59 this month, which is incredible. If I did that every month, that'd be over $120,000 a year, which would be great. I'm sure most of you, if you're starting a podcast, would love to do that. So how do you get there? And that's probably the question everyone's wondering. Well, you can see there's a few ways to make money from podcasting. You can make it from just growing your audience and selling ads. You can create your own product, or do a service like I do, when you trade with people. Those are the main things. And how you do it is kind of difficult, right? I would say growing money from ads is the hardest way to do it. So if we swing back over my totals, you can kind of see easier. So just in 2 months of selling my service through here, I'm almost caught up to what I make from ads. So probably July or August, I will surpass that. And granted, yes, you make the episode and it plays forever. And if it makes the ads, that's kind of passive in a sense. Once you do the work, it's passive. Versus these are all clients that I actively work with. It's not a product that people buy, like a digital product or anything like that. So it does take time. But I just feel really good. I enjoy the coaching. So that's what I like to do. But building your podcast, that's kind of, your options. Either sell ads, which is probably the worst way because I get a lot of downloads for a podcast. I mean, if I swing over here and go over to home, you can see here as this loads that this is my podcast. I've almost got 6 million downloads. Every 7 days, I get 31,000 unique listeners. So unique listener is not someone that listens to multiple episodes, right? That's just an individual, and they may have listened more than once. And then if you go over here to the charts, you can see, let me move my face. We're getting 14, 15,000, sometimes 16,000 downloads a day, which is a lot for podcasting, right? I know YouTube numbers, that's not that huge, but for podcasting, that's a lot. So I would say trying to get to that would be more difficult than really just niching down into the product of you, like what you would offer. And so if you want to grow your podcast, you have to think about, is this a business or is this something I enjoy doing? And I'm going to change this just so we can look at something else here. So if you enjoy making your podcast and 5 people listen a week, then you should be happy with that because you're enjoying what you're doing. If you want to enjoy and scale it because you just want reach, you enjoy, meeting or talking to more people, then that has to be your purpose. If you want to build a business around it, then that needs to be your purpose. Now, it can be a bit of all those, right? You could still love the podcast. Like I love doing mine. You could also love the reach, connecting with all people. I really enjoy that. And then you could also try to make it a business, but you have to be clear on what you're trying to do because that's going to affect the makeup of the podcast. If you're trying to make it a business, then you have to figure out how are you going to take someone that's listening and turn that into something that's financial, like whether that's going to be a client that you're going to help or somebody that would buy something for you. Like you have to have that as purpose, like when you're making the episode. And a lot of you have reached out to me via Instagram and asked me, how to build your podcast and stuff like that. And that's probably the biggest thing is just the direction is not there. Like it's just what you enjoy, which is good. But if you just do exactly what you enjoy and feels good, then the result is going to be that you're making something that you enjoy and feels good versus is this a funnel to create a sale? Is this a funnel to create an expansion of the podcast? Like what is it? And so you should really reflect on yourself and your podcast and think, is this something that's going to grow? So, in the end, this is probably the last video I'll make on this. Again, it was the journey to 10,000. Unless there's just a big demand on it. I will get on TikTok and I see people talking about podcasts, and there's a lot of them, and they make more money outside of their podcast, meaning they make more money teaching people how to do podcasts or promoting how to do podcasts or partnering with Spotify and stuff versus their actual podcast. And so, I don't want to be that guy. I enjoy my podcast. It's a real thing. It makes real money. I could pull up the stripes and all that stuff, but I'm not necessarily selling anything here, so I don't feel like I need to do that. You could just look up my podcast and see the download numbers. Not that it's huge either. Like 6 million is small compared to some of the big fish out there, especially if you include the YouTube. See, this is not including YouTube. This is only on Spotify and Apple and Google Podcasts and Amazon Podcasts. Like, it is not on YouTube. I do have it on YouTube, but it doesn't do very well. And that's really because I haven't tried to make it YouTube-esque. Like, I don't spend any time on the thumbnails. I don't do a lot of stuff. I just kind of put it on there, and maybe I should. I just haven't. So it doesn't get very much traction at all. Maybe that'll be the next step on how to do that. But if you want to grow, really reflect on what's the intention behind your episode. Listen to it yourself. Ask for feedback from the people that listen. Ask for feedback from people that don't listen. Like, find somebody and say, hey, like, I've been making this podcast. I want you to give it a listen, and I need you to tell me everything that's wrong with it. And see what they say. They will poke holes in it that you probably don't see. Don't take it offensively. Don't, have any judgment. Just listen and see where you can apply it. The biggest criticisms that I've received in my podcast have really helped me grow. Now, of course, there's just like haters that listen to it and they'll just say like something nasty. You don't learn anything from that. But when someone makes an actual complaint about something, or they bring up something like, hey, this bothers me, or didn't like this, you can reflect on it. And sometimes you're like, you know what, they're right. Like, yeah, I enjoy doing that. But from their view, I see where that affects them and disengages them. That's a big thing to pay attention to. Actually, Spotify for podcasters does give you a little bit of something like that. So if you pull up an episode, and let's go to a little bit of an older one. So you pull up an episode and you go to analytics. It's got all your analytics on it, but it shows you kind of the watch time. So you can see, how people listen through. And if you see any big drop-offs in your episode, you need to go to that spot and figure out what are you doing, especially if it's consistently. If in like every episode people drop off at that certain point, there's probably something happening. Like for me, there's a big drop off right here. This is when the main message ends. So I have an ad right here, and then it goes all the way here, and then I have another ad placement here. So that does stop people, but I also end the message, right? I say this is, I finished, kind of come to the end, and then my ending line is, be the rising tide that lifts all ships. I say that, people know that the message is pretty much over. It plays the ad, then I just kind of go into like the ending where I thank everybody for listening. I point people to my email list, to my social media, and then I also bring up my coaching program. And that's probably the biggest thing I'm working on, is like really turning that into a solid funnel. So I've just been practicing it over and over. Right now, I just have people message me on social media, and I message them back, and I schedule it that way. I don't do any in-person Zoom meetings to sell anymore. I did get more leads that way when I said, hey, we can schedule a free session, we can talk, and possibly get something going. But, even though it was more people, it was just, I enjoyed helping people. I love connecting with people, but I was spending so much time doing that it was hurting me from growing. In fact, that's why I stopped, if I go back here, that's why I stopped doing one-on-one coaching through the podcast for a while, because I had clients already and I just didn't feel like doing the free sessions anymore, because it is tiring. Like when you do coaching, especially mindset coaching with people, it takes a lot out of you. You get tired, you're doing everything else in your life too. And so that was one of the reasons I stopped. So now they fill out the list, or they fill out the lead. I reach out to them directly. We talk a little bit back and forth through messaging. And then I basically give them an overview of the program, and I give them the price. And if they want to do it, they can. If not, it's no worries. That's definitely going to get a lower closing rate, because I'm not building that personal connection with them. But if you get enough volume, that's okay. So if you don't have a lot of volume, of course, I would probably recommend still doing the in-person calls, like, a Zoom meeting to try to pitch it. But once you start getting enough leads to where you feel like, I don't have to close this high to get the clients I want, then you can transition to the other way. It's way less stressful. You just message them back and forth, and whether they do it or not, they do it. If they do it, they're good. Especially, if they do it that way, the money probably wasn't as big of an objection as maybe someone that you might convince in person. And so you don't have to worry about that, of them like canceling because they can't afford it or things like that. So it's all pluses doing that way, but that's it. So if you have any questions, I still check this channel all the time because people ask good questions. You can also follow me on social media. My Instagram, I believe, is down below. You can follow me there. But I really just wanted to do an end to the series. I made it to the 10,000. The next goal, by the end of the year, I would probably like to be at 15 to 20,000 from the podcast. I'm going to have to align on what that's going to be. You know, I might go straight for the 20 and level it up big. You know, I may not make it by then, but the purpose behind everything I'm doing is to build the business to that. My ultimate goal is to get to $100,000 a month, and you know, maybe you want that journey. If you watch this video all the way through and you do want to see that journey from someone that's just telling you as they do, I'm not an expert on this side. I would say things I'm expert in is mindset. You know, the Positive Mindset Podcast, what I do, that I would feel high level in. That I spend most of my time focusing on that. I'm dedicated to that. I apply it to myself. I apply it to my clients. I have now worked with clients that are, you know, multimillionaires that own businesses that, you know, do all these amazing things, and my perspective has helped them expand. So I know, like, that's the thing I'm the expert on. So that's why I charge for that. This, you know, maybe I am to you, like where you're at, I do have more knowledge, and if you think I could be of service, you know, definitely connect. But if you just want me to do more videos, if you feel like this would be helpful in this journey of financial expansion, then drop the comment below, say more content or just something like that. And if it seems like there's enough, I'll do it. If not, then I'm more than happy to end this chapter, because, you know, the big one, of course, for me is still what I'm building my actual business on. So I appreciate everybody for watching. I hope you have an amazing day. I hope this gave you a bit of inspiration that anything's possible. I've been doing my podcast for 3 years. I have, you know, this is going to be a reality check probably for some. You know, I've done podcasts almost every day this entire time, and I am at 783 episodes in. So I've been doing it for a little while now. I definitely have polished myself up a bit and gotten better at it, but it's been such a great ride. Please continue. Don't stop. Even if you're getting no listeners at this point, there was a point where I was there too, and there's a point where you'll figure it out and you'll go to the next level. So keep trying, keep growing. Have an amazing day.